Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we're back in War Thunder, still looking at update 1.59, and after looking at the ground vehicles, after looking at the aircraft, we have the rest, locations and missions and some other stuff. So with the locations, we have Port of Novorossiysk, I think is how you say it. And if you want to know my opinion on it, I did a video last week which you can go and have a look at. Basically, if you don't want to watch it, the short version of it is the map itself for tanks. The domination points are in completely the wrong place and makes it heavily biased towards one side. But if we take a step back and instead of just look at the tank map and look at it as an overall map, including the aircraft, I can see it being a really good step in the enduring confrontation direction for ground battles and air battles at the same time, and even sea battles and naval battles if they want to, because obviously it's a port, but that's for them to decide. We also have an extension of the Britain map, which used to be there. They've now called it the British Coast, France, and the English Channel, or La Manche. It's 80 by 80 miles, it's pretty big, and if you want to know my opinion on it, I talked about Boulogne-sur-Mer, which is an operation which has been put in. It's a new aircraft mission, and it basically covers the same map. So the only real difference is, for this aircraft location, it's just Boulogne-sur-Mer without the mission stuff tagged on. So I basically have the same opinion. It's great for enduring confrontation. Hopefully it really goes somewhere. We saw last week that there was an event for Boulogne-sur-Mer, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. And then new combined battle missions that feature parts of the locations that were not previously used, Fields of Poland, Sands of Tunisia. This is really good because, for me personally, that gives me hope for stuff like Boulogne-sur-Mer and Port of Novorossiysk. The Fields of Poland, it's basically a completely different map. It's taken the same map, but it's in a different area. And the thing is, with that as a fact, I look at maps like Normandy, I look at maps like the Port of Novorossiysk, I look at Volokholamsk, and all these maps which can be opened up into big maps. I can see where they're going with this. They are either trying to create smaller maps out of what they already have, or trying to make enduring confrontation for ground vehicles. And that, to me, is exactly where I want them to go. Sands of Tunisia is an actual really, really good map. And I don't know if it is used. If they don't know this, but in simulator battles, you used to be able to play on Sands of Tunisia anyway. So before they changed it, so you could only play simulator battles in the events. So the map was already existing even when Tunisia was added. Right after it was added, I was playing on this so-called Sands of Tunisia map. So I don't know where that comes from. So we look at changes in locations and missions. Spawn distances have been changed. Now, instead of going through all the numbers, basically what they've done is for anything over BR 2.3, they've increased the distance, and it goes up exponentially as you go up BR, which makes sense, because as you go up BR, planes get faster. So spawning further apart makes a lot of sense. I mean, the biggest one is a BR 6.3 Plus, where 22,000 meters is now between the spawns instead of 14,000, and this is for ground strike battles, right? So basically it's just moving the planes further away from each other, so basically you can explore larger areas, you can you can move around a bit more. Once again, taking the existing battle area and making it a bit larger, which once again pushes us towards this direction of enduring confrontation, which is exactly, in my opinion, where the game should be going anyway. It's giving people more space to do things, it's giving people more space to be more adventurous, to take different directions, and these maps were already there, it's just basically extending them a bit. Distance between bombers when spawning in ground strike battles changed from 20,000 meters, and it was 18,000, so basically they've moved the bombers apart. Once again, it's not that much of a big change, but it does once again push towards this enduring confrontation idea. Bombing target areas and airfield destruction functionality has been added in frontline in arcade battles as heavy bombers require adequate targets. So I think this is fine. I don't really play a lot of arcade anymore, so please go to somebody else if you want comments on this, but I think that's good. Any more options to battles? People always ask for more options, more operations, more ideas, so it's nice to have another one. In ground strike mode, where the bombing zones were too close to the main battle area, these zones have been moved away to allow bombers increased security. I think this is completely fine, and it fits in with the what they were talking about before, where bombers basically, they spawn further away from the battlefield now. So having the zones further away as well, it means that you can take different routes, be a bit more experimental, work out which works for you, and that's completely fine. Accuracy of AAA has been decreased in arcade mode. I think we can all attest to how AAA can really destroy our our experience in the game. I would like to see this point extended to simulator, and definitely realistic. Realistic has had a problem with AAA for maybe 2 years now, on and off, and I still get sniped from 5k away. Sometimes I just get hit by a random shot from an 88 which decides it doesn't like the cut of my jib. In domination mode, on the old version of the location, Mozdok has been returned. So basically the big issue with Mozdok, when they changed around where the domination points were, it made it very, very favoured towards one side because there was a lot of hills you could hide behind. Putting the point on the top of the hill made it, basically, it meant if you sat on the northwest of the map, you could just look at the point in cover from whatever's north of you and stare at the point, and therefore cover it, and there was no retaliation. So putting it back into that lower area means that at least there's a bit more cover for you, and it makes it easier for you to actually get in there and do something. The only issue I have with that area, which ran into a lot, is the fact that it creates a massive choke point, where 2 tanks or even 1 tank can basically just hold it, and once somebody has taken that point, it's very hard to take it off them. But at least that means that players, because basically this happened before, and what players would do is they'd just flank around and take the other 2 points. The issue you had is when you had a single point map and the only point was the one in the center. So hopefully they're moving away from those maps. The distance between spawn points for aircraft of 6.3 BR has been increased to 19,000 meters in domination mode. That's lovely. As I said, moving away, especially with faster aircraft, makes complete sense to me. New domination missions: Ardennes, Eastern Europe, and Finland. So these are just existing maps where they've put airfields on. Domination missions were my favourite, especially when it comes to arcade, so maybe I will go back to arcade for a bit and play a bit. I need to get, I believe it's that German medal that you need, and it's the only one I don't have. In the mission Berlin, domination capture airfields have been rotated by 90 degrees to give easier approach. Lovely stuff. It was kind of hard on that. All ground strike missions now have same number of bomb zones, and their size has been increased by approximately 200 meters so that they can be easier bombed from higher altitude. With the addition of the other thing as well, the airfield destruction functionality with the added in the front line in arcade battles, I think this is completely fine. Making them slightly easier to bomb. I mean, it's only 200 meters, right? If you've got like a 4,000 pounder, it's probably going to cover that distance anyway. Well, hopefully. Unfortunately, bombs in this game have been reduced to basically, I don't know, they've been reduced to being terrible. I think that's the only real way I can put it without being humorous. All operation missions now have lighter units appearing at the 10th minute. These units can be destroyed with MG fire, which causes your opponent to lose points. The number of units is enough to remove some of the victory score points, but not all of them. This is something I might do a whole video on, because unless they've fixed it, which they might have done, what used to happen at the start of the battles is that people knew where these units were, because basically what they did is they just put them slightly off the edge of the map, and and therefore they would just spawn in, so they were still in the area. So once you knew where they were, once you'd played the map a few times and seen someone going over to that area, you just stick your bomber and go and bomb it, return back to the battlefield, and go and land and rinse and repeat, and you destroy all of these light units. So hopefully they fixed that. I haven't seen it in the patch notes. It probably was, but I just didn't see it personally. I don't like this idea that basically they've added this in because people would run away. Like, there would be one guy left, and maybe he was winning on battle points, therefore he would just run away the whole map. I was completely fine with that. I think it was a tactical approach to the game. If you have a win condition, then you should play towards it. But it seems like after 10 minutes people are getting bored in realistic. So, you know, I understand. My opinion is I don't mind longer games. That's why I enjoy playing Enduring Confrontation for a few hours. But maybe there's a lot of people out there who want their games to end quicker, so that's completely fine. Give your fighters the impact when it comes to destroying units that they want. Also, you could just turn around with a counter argument and just say most fighters and attackers nowadays can carry bombs or can carry some kind of bomb. So maybe just having light units might not be enough. I mean, I would throw in a few medium tanks, because the thing is, I don't want some fighter just destroying a lot of units, because then once again it gets rid of what bombers are designed to do, and bombers already have it quite hard in this game, apart from some of them such as the TU-4, which are Death Stars. Winter and Summer Stalingrad map, including combined battle map, have Barricady and Krasnil Octobar factories added. I haven't seen these, but I suppose that's kind of a nice little touch, so I'll report back, I think. For all missions in the game mode Operation, new air respawn points have been added. Respawn points for fighters are further from the mission objectives in the airfield. Respawn points for bombers and attackers are closer. Altitude for respawn points. So once again, as you can see, they're just trying to lengthen stuff out. The same points as I said before were are effective here as well. 5 locations have been added to the game mode Enduring Confrontation: Bulge, Korsun, Kursk, Winter Stalingrad, and Zhengzhou. So once again, we have a push for Enduring Confrontation. All I can say is wonderful. I hope this game mode takes off. They're doing an event right now for realistic battles. I wish there was always an event for realistic battles. I really think it's awesome. I love it. So yeah, hopefully they do that in the events tab. I think a lot of players will move towards that, or at least I will. Not just because it gives you a bit more research, but just because it's just a funner battle. Like the fact that you can respawn, you can basically mold to what's going on. It's a few hours long battle. It's interesting, and it changes as it goes. The idea of having this moving offensive and defensive line is wonderful, and it's something I really, really love in the game. In Enduring Confrontation mode, the amount of bombs that are required to destroy airfields and bombing zones has been increased for all battle ranks. I think that's completely fine. One of the issues that Enduring Confrontation did have is a lot of the time you were very limited on what airfields you can spawn at, because basically what would happen in the first 5 minutes of the battle is some jackass and a massive bomber would just blow up everything. So you were limited to one airfield, therefore the game became very linear, because the enemy knew which airfield you were coming from, because none of the other airfields had been basically repaired until, another 10 minutes. So, and by the time 10 minutes is up, there's another jackass and another bomber who would do the same. Also, it means that more people in their bombers can make more points from destroying airfields and bombing zones. Looking at Enduring Confrontation, because it is a longer type of mode, you would definitely think that you should have You should have more health on everything, basically, because you should be in the battle longer, if that makes sense. I don't know how to phrase it properly, but I think you get the gist. We have balance changes for the ground vehicles on Kuban, Poland, Tunisia, and Berlin. I don't think it will change that much. AI seems to be becoming a bit more deadly, though, and I'm not too happy about that. New mission mode, Conquest, for tank location Mozdok has been added. I need to look into that. I haven't been able to play it yet. Eastern Europe and Normandy for SB mode have been changed. Some zones that either had specific bugs or granted an advantage to one side have been reduced by approximately 100 meters. Wonderful. I'll have to see how that impacts. Then we have the hangars. The hangars are really nice, just because, first of all, you don't even have to use them. Like, you can opt out if you want to use the old hangars, but I like them. They had a few issues when they were first implemented, when the update came out. I had some serious frame rate issues, even on my system, but I think it's at least better now. It still struggles when moving between them. Something that's really nice is the customizable fact in it. One of the great things about War Thunder is you can add your own camos, you can add your own hangars, and all you have to do is implement them in the game. You can add your own missions. There's a lot of community stuff for this game, which is really nice. So having a new avenue for that kind of stuff in the form of hangars, I really enjoy. We've got new 3D decorations. I really don't care about them. They don't do anything. They're just there. It would be nice to have customization options, but I doubt they'll ever do that because they want to make money out of it. We have additional armor modules added to a bunch of vehicles. Basically, I think what's going to happen is they're slowly moving through all the vehicles. Eventually, everything will have these armor modules. The only the criticism I had when they first came out is the fact that there were certain vehicles they were obviously favouring to get these armor modules on. One of them was some of the variants of the T-34. But it looks like with these new ones, especially for Germany, they're trying to balance it out a bit. They're trying to give it to each nation at the same time, like give each of them, something. So I think that's fine. The fact that it's a modification, completely fine with that. I think it's a good idea. Because it doesn't add that much armor, and, it's kind of nice to see. Economy and development. The requirement to have a previous vehicle in specific aircraft and ground vehicle branches between ranks 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 have been removed. I think that's completely fine. Temporary change introduced for 2 months in research point requirements. This has actually been really nice because it meant that some of the vehicles that I needed a few more research points on I was able to get, like the Polkastora. The ME-262 I now have because of that, so that was very kind. Also, I think the B-29 or the B-57 was one of them. So I definitely benefited from that and could use some of the lines that I'd stocked up. The KV-1B has been reduced to 5.0. I think I talked about the KV-1B when it hit, and I did think it needed to be reduced. It wasn't very combat effective, and even at 5.0 it's not really going to be combat effective. Centurion Mark III has been reduced to 6.3. I think the only reason this has been reduced to 6.3 is so it stops getting into those really high tier matches like 7.7s, because when I ever took it out, because it used to be at 6.7 I believe, because the other Centurion is at 7.0, or at least it used to be. And basically, the Centurion Mark III would just get faced against 7.7s constantly because they had nobody else to fight. It was just T-54s all day, IS-3s, and they would just can you. So hopefully this means that it will face much more like Tiger 2s and things like that. Will it happen? It depends what people are playing at the time. Some of the aircraft of the 5th rank have been merged, so that's completely fine. It makes the ordering look a bit nicer. Now we have camouflages. Camouflages I don't really mind about too much anymore because I can just import my own. The only thing that I will keep banging on about, and I will always bang on about this, is the fact that there is a real issue now that we have winter and desert maps. Now, from the points, desert camouflages for early German tanks have been added. 3-color, desert 3-color, desert 2-color, and winter 2-color camouflages for all Soviet ground vehicles have been added. El Alamein and North African 2-color camouflages have been added for all British ground vehicles. So as you can see, they're taking steps to address an issue which I talked about a very long time ago. The issue with these camouflages, now that we're getting these different maps, now that we're getting these desert and winter maps, tanks stick out like a sore thumb. And if they have the winter camos, then they don't stick out like a sore thumb, especially in simulators. So it was a massive advantage to people, and it still is. The fact that it is a small but definitely there pay-to-win area of the game when it comes to skins in simulator mode and realistic mode for tanks, because now obviously you can unlock these skins, but it takes you so long. I mean, 200 kills sometimes in simulator battles is completely ridiculous for certain tanks, and you have to do it for all tanks. So it would be nice if when you unlock the vanilla tank, you get a standard green camo, or whatever factory colour it was, then you get a standard desert camo, then you get a standard winter camo, and then you can unlock camos which look basically nicer based on those variants. Will that happen? Probably not, because, they want to make money, or, they want people to achieve something, and therefore they feel it. But it has got to a point now that you have a lot of people who are playing tanks, who have played it for quite a long time, that if you get a new tank and you're facing a lot of Russian tanks which have winter camos, it's very hard to see them, and therefore very hard to get kills. You basically just have to look for tracks at that point. Changes in damage models, I don't think there's a lot to talk about this. I will need to do a lot more testing on this idea. But some of them make sense. The Hetzer did have issues with its side skirts. They basically just never worked. Something that is kind of interesting is that the fact that there was a ricochet chance for... Here, I'll read it out for you. For AP and APHE rounds, where the caliber exceeds the armor thickness by over 2.5, the ricochet chance is 0%. If the angle of impact is 24 degrees or more from the plane of the armor. If the caliber exceeds the armor thickness of by 3, then the ricochet chance is 0% if the angle of impact is 21 degrees or more from the plane of the armor. The fact that there was even a percentage there beforehand is completely ridiculous. I've talked about it a lot before. Armor does not matter in ground forces, and it needs to matter. Changes in ground vehicles: the 105mm T13 APC-BCHE projectile has been added for the T29 heavy tank, as well as for the T28 and T95 SPGs. This is a welcome change. I talked a lot a very long time ago with Tazzy and Rex, and basically they really enjoyed the T28 or the T95, but their main issue is, first of all, the cupola, and you can't really get out of that. It's always going to be like that. But the fact is, when they shot someone with their gun, it didn't really do a lot. So having this new APC-BCHE shell, it does a lot of damage, which is nice. And with the addition of the T29 tank, which has the same gun as the T28 and the T95, it's nice to see that they've added this 105 in, and hopefully it makes the T28 and T95 actually valuable to a team. But medium tanks are always going to win in this game just because of how the game is set up, so it's kind of a pointless discussion. Additions and fixes in the sound dubbing during tutorial, well, that's nice. And then you have all of the flight models. There's only two things I want to bring up with the flight models. Separate engine controls have been implemented. That's really useful for me. Someone who uses manual controls a lot of the time and trying to learn how it all works. I think that's been very, very useful to me. So thank you for that. Airplane's agility has been increased in simplified and mouse-aim modes. I hate this. One of the reasons that really attracted me to realistic and simulator in this game is if I fucked up, even with a mouse, it would be detrimental to me. If I made a mistake, then it would be very hard for me to recover. Now it's been made evidently clear that they don't really care about that if they've increased the agility of airplanes when using mouse aim. It basically, once again, just chucks joystick out the window. I want Simulator to be much more about joysticks, which it is right now, but you can see the emphasis that they're trying to push people towards Simulator using mouse aim. You can't do that. And in realistic, now it's just going to widen the gap even more. One of the great things about the joystick is that you could pull stuff that a mouse aim user couldn't do, but now, with this new change, you can. There is no use in using a joystick anymore, which is very, very annoying. Also, they've made automatic flapper operation really weird, and I don't like it because, to be quite honest, not all aircraft in the war had these automatic flap operations, so it's kind of annoying. But everything else, I would urge you to go and look at the flight models if anything is a bit odd, or if a plane feels different to you. But they're all quite interesting changes, and at least some of them, not all of them, but at least some of them have data sheets attached to them, and you can actually confirm what they're saying is true. So that's looking at all the rest of the changes. It's obviously not going to be as long as looking into the vehicles, but overall, it's the fact that there's a big emphasis looking towards these larger maps and pushing people apart when they start the battle. I think that's good. For me personally, I understand a lot of people may not be happy with that because they want shorter battles, but for me, spending a few hours in a game, an enduring confrontation game is something I really enjoy in War Thunder. So, for me personally, it's great. And there aren't many bad things in this patch when it comes to the other stuff. When it comes to the vehicles, I think I've made my voice heard on some of the issues. So, with me and my croaky voice, I will say I hope you have a nice day.